Welcome to this video on the Kiths of Changeling, the Dreaming. Changelings are more alien to the mortal world than perhaps any supernatural race in the world of darkness. Their home is the eponymous dreaming, from which they were drawn by the earliest mortals to shape and in turn be shaped by them. The main Kiths of Changeling adopted the Changeling Way to preserve their souls from the ravages of banality through a crude form of reincarnation, since they cannot return to their true home, Arcadia. And in truth, there is a significant contingent of changelings who would rather not go back, fearful of who, or what, may be waiting for them when they reach the homeland. But without further ado, the Changeling Kiths. The Boggans. The Boggans know the value of hard work and good work. They are honest, hospitable, reliable, and charitable, which is why they may be found in nearly every freehold. The short, industrious changelings are usually homebodies, but at a certain age, a wanderlust overtakes some of them, so out onto the road they go in search of adventure and to help the helpless. Boggans of the Seelie Court are renowned for their altruism, while Boggans of the Unseelie Court are similarly helpful, though it has more to do with placing others in their debt. Helpfulness is the coin of Boggan society, and those who rescue others are considered worthy of respect. Yet the Boggans, being as tireless as they are, dislike treachery and laziness. Those who abuse their hospitality are unlikely to receive any more of it. Most Boggans are homebodies, as stated before, and so they prefer to find a good place and an honest job, usually as craftsmen or caretakers. The other side of Boggans is that they are irrepressible gossips. It's not that they are spying, never that. It's just that Boggans, in the course of their service, tend to hear things that they are too interested in to not share with their fellows. On the flip side, Unseelie Boggans are no less perceptive, but tend to be a bit more tight-lipped with the secrets they learn, at least until someone pays them the right price, or that secret can do the most damage to their enemies. But the Boggan service, despite their large ears and loose lips, is too good for any fairy lord to pass up. In fact, the easiest way to infuriate a Boggan is to question the quality of their work. Some Boggans have literally worked themselves to death for the sake of seeing a job through to the end. While service is important to the character of Boggans, debt is even more so. Boggans despise the idea of being indebted to anyone, and in some instances would rather die. An important fact for any Kithain to understand is that the Boggans take pride in their service, however they are not a subservient people, tying back to the idea of indebtedness. They know the value of service, especially their own, and do not suffer ingratitude easily or for very long. The fairy mean of Boggans tend to be short, bright-eyed, with large noses and hands. Overindulgent Boggans quickly become plump, but rarely are they soft. Boggans are often tanned from hard work and their hands are calloused but deft. Boggans despise extravagance but love comfort. When not working or adventuring, they enjoy the simple comforts of home, a full larder, a snug bed, and a warm fire. Boggan childlings are precocious. Everywhere you turn, young Boggans manage to be underfoot, but they also gather wherever there is work to be done. They are quick, although not always the most attentive of students. They also learn a trade that they will ply in adulthood. However, if there is nothing for them to do, well, they are the embodiment of the statement, idle hands are the devil's playthings. Boggan wilders hunger for adventure, usually as part of a motley, handling those small chores that brave adventurers in the stories often overlook, such as haggling over quality food and gear. As Boggans grow into grumps, they set aside their adventuring life for a kind of semi-retirement. After all, no true Boggan would consider ceasing work completely. They become fixtures in a freehold, doing odd jobs, dispensing earthy wisdom, and entertaining a host of well-wishers and old friends in their comfortable homes. So long as no one is watching them, Boggans can perform physical labor in a third of the time of others. They are incredibly observant as well as shameless gossips. Boggans can quickly figure out the social dynamics of a group, whether it is a motley, a freehold, a club, or even an office. Lastly, Boggans are hardwired for charitability, sometimes to their own detriment. To overcome this compulsion for altruism requires an exertion of will on their part. The Eshu. Born from the dreams of wandering tribes of Africa, India, and Chaldea in the earliest days of man, the Eshu can be found in every corner of the world, going wherever their feet will carry them. Living on the road has made the Eshu very clever, witty, and charming, both to be entertaining guests to those who extend them hospitality, and to outwit enemies they could not hope to defeat in combat. This occasionally leads the Eshu to scheme and scam unwary marks. Tricksters, singers, and storytellers all, as good at getting out of trouble as they are at getting into it. Among themselves, the Eshu tend to be withdrawn, though. The ceremonies and festivals of the Eshu are restricted to their kith in general, and usually only their most trusted associates are invited. The Eshu prefer to live in the moment, which makes them passionate if fickle allies. Despite being wanderers, traders, singers, storytellers, explorers, and criminals, they are accustomed to hard living, and the Eshu prefer to live well. They have a preference for garish fashions, though they will copy the local styles of dress with their own twist on it. While the Shi may have their palaces and freeholds, the Eshu consider themselves the princes of the road. As befits a nomadic kith, the Eshu come in a variety of ethnicities, though the oldest of the kith tend to be African, Middle Eastern, and Indian. All are tall, lean, and muscular, with dark, timeless eyes. When following the Changeling way, Eshu go into professions that permit them to travel freely and without much scrutiny. Eshu childlings tend to be quiet, polite, and observant, but are full of questions and insights. They tend to watch the adults around them very closely. As wilders, Eshu begin their long journey through the world, seeking to follow in the footsteps of great heroes, explorers, and even gods, and then exceeding those legendary figures. When they become grumps, Eshu return to the places once visited in their younger days to reminisce and trade stories of their adventuring lives, thus closing the circle of their journeys and sparking the flame of adventure in the hearts of other wanderers. As wayfarers, the Eshu have developed a prodigious sense of direction and timing. This does not lead the Eshu to the safest paths necessarily, and much to the consternation of their companions, but to the most interesting ones. The best stories often come from trouble. When an Eshu finds trouble and then finds his way around it, his stockpile of tales grows. The more spectacular the Eshu's feats, the more skilled they grow. This poise can make an Eshu reckless, and every changeling of the kith finds it hard to turn down a challenge if they see some chance of victory, however slight. This strong belief in the force of their own luck has led many an Eshu to their doom, writing a sorry end to what might have been a great tale. The Nockers. Nockers are cynics and inventors, typically in that order. As antisocial artificers, they prefer machines and devices to people or other changelings. Kith and kin are typically happy to leave them to their work. It's not that Nockers are simply peevish, it's that they are perfectionists, and they see the flaws in everyone and everything, including their own work. In fact, their insults and ridicule are part of their culture. As the inventor might rap on an invention to test its stability, Nockers insult others to find the weaknesses in them. Of course, such testing doesn't improve others' opinions of them. And Nockers tend towards individualism. As such, they regard their own arts and taste as beyond question, and others as beneath contempt. Every Nocker has a signature that marks everything they create as their own. This means that if a Knocker's work is no good, then by extension, he is no good. Yet Nockers are uncomfortably aware of their own flaws, including their lack of social graces. Some Nockers yearn for the company of others, to participate in the courtly and romantic interplay of changelings. Yet they can never have it, so they bury themselves in their work. Even when a Nocker manages to stumble into a romantic entanglement, their awareness and obsession with its flaws will eventually bring it to a tragic end. Nockers are fixated on their dreams of perfect creations and machines, if for no other reason than because reality disappoints them so greatly. Yet they never stop trying to bring those dreams into reality. Nockers tend towards reddish skin, with white faces, red cheeks, and noses that make their faces resemble a sullen clown's makeup. With a head full of white hair and small rat-like eyes, Nockers can rarely be called attractive. To distract from this, Nockers are obsessive about their wardrobe, only to be outdone by the Shi. In the mortal world, Nockers drift towards mechanical and engineering professions. Childling Nockers have an unfortunate habit of breaking things in their exploration of how those things work. Wilder Nockers are great fans of the modern world and all of the things in it that they can take apart and put back together, with a few improvements of their own. Grump Nockers are respected, usually, but have fallen behind the cutting edge and they know it, so they inflict their cutting remarks and criticisms on anyone foolish enough to get too near to them. A skill unique to the Nockers is their ability to forge non-living chimera with sufficient raw glamour, the appropriate facilities, and most importantly, privacy. As creators and inventors, Nockers have a unique relationship with machines. Specifically, they can fix nearly any machine they encounter, either by fixing the machine with their particular eye for engineering and mechanics, or by deploying their acidic tongues to curse the machine into working right again. Whether it is a handful of tools or a stream of profanities, a Knocker will get a broken device working one way or another. Unfortunately, Knockers are the victims of their own perfectionism. No matter how hard they try, nothing they create will ever match their vision of the thing, a fact that only exacerbates their anger and frustration. Everything a Knocker creates, no matter how well made, will contain at least one flaw. Worst of all, the Knocker will be aware of that flaw, only deepening their annoyance, which he will then proceed to take out on anyone around him. The Pooka. The Pooka are the life of the party, when they're not trying to prank or rob everyone in the freehold. They are as likable as they are mischievous, which works to make them controversial figures among the Kithain. They are work-shy and playful, which only deepens that aggravation that they cause others. But Pooka are creatures of fun, even if that fun isn't particularly gentle. The one thing Pooka despise is sadness. Better to dance in a swirl of chaos than dwell in the doldrums of banality. With that in mind, the Pooka have a casual relationship at best with the truth, not from any sense of malice, at least on the part of Seelie Pooka, but because the truth is usually so dull. Better to tell tall and interesting tales that set everyone scrambling and running about. The worst insult any Pooka can receive, or deliver, is that someone is mundane. The Pooka identify with animals. Combined with their seemings, which usually include some animal trait, and their affinity for shape-shifting. The Pooka are adept spies as well as tricksters. Even with their infuriating behavior, the Pooka are possessed of a strange sense of nobility. They adhere to their friends to the death and fight as hard as any Redcap or troll when they are threatened. Regardless, wherever Pooka go, fun, at least their understanding of it, follows in their wake. A Pooka's seeming is always winsome and possesses at least one animalistic trait. Most Pooka are mammalian, though there are rumors of avian and even a few reptilians of their kind. Given their love of fun, Pooka gravitate towards live entertainment professions, either as comedians, clowns, or actors, rarely doing much more than scratching out enough to live on, so they could continue to play. Childling Pooka are like clever baby animals, always looking for some trouble to get into, while trying to avoid punishment, usually by making themselves appear as cute and harmless as possible. Wilders are a bit sharper in their sense of fun and humor, though some might call it malicious and crude. Pooka grumps usually settle down, though they don't abandon their love of pranks. Instead, they become more subtle and far-seeing in the planning and execution of their jokes. Every Pooka is a shape changer, with an affinity for at least one animal in particular, which gives them all of the abilities and drawbacks of said creature. A Pooka even adopts some of the animal's quirks into their mortal seeming, and their fairy mien. A dog Pooka might perk his ears up at strange noises, or circle a spot before sitting down. A cat Pooka might lick her fingers after eating, or obsess over her grooming. Another ability of the Pooka is their endearing nature, able to break through even the steeliest of exteriors. Pooka have a strange way of worming their way into others' confidence, though it isn't instantaneous or foolproof. The strong-willed or particularly banal might be unmoved by a Pooka's charms. And speaking of a Pooka's charms, one of their supposed charms is their innate propensity for lying. Even when they wish to tell the truth, there is always an instinct in them to sprinkle a bit of amusing deception into their tales, just to make things more fun. The Redcaps. The bloodthirsty and gruesome Redcaps have an unsavory reputation, whether seelie or unseelie. They thrive on the fear of others, and it is suspected that they were born from nightmares of war. The name Redcap comes from the habit of their forebears to wear blood-stained wool caps. In modern days, Redcaps prefer to apply the red, blood or not, in more fashionable and unpredictable ways, such as a stripe of red hair, a blood-red leather jacket, or a blood-soaked bandana hanging out of one of their pockets. Redcaps gravitate towards violence, and the violent. They often consort with or even lead mortal gangs, which in changeling parlance is known as a corby. A redcap corby, especially in unseelie hands, quickly turns into a roving band dedicated to destruction and terror. Unlike trolls who are as intimidating as mountains with axes, redcaps are all about attitude. A redcap wears his bad temper and capacity for violence with the same pride as he does his cap. Redcaps fight hard and dirty, which they justify by claiming that the seelie courts oppress them. The unseelie courts, on the other hand, admire their determination, if not their wits. Tales tell of redcap dragon slayers, and those who have redcap bodyguards are objects of respect and a little bit of fear, as the will needed to cower redcap into service is great. Aside from being ferocious warriors, redcaps are also prodigious eaters, and sometimes those two interests intersect. No few foes have fallen victim to a redcap's monstrous bite. Most redcaps are unseelie, but a few seelie redcaps do exist, though not for lack of their unseelie kin trying to kill them. Seelie redcaps tend to be paragons of chivalry, albeit still ruthless warriors, who live for the thrill of battle. Redcaps are usually burly, gray, and bow-legged. Every redcap has blood-red eyes, a flat nose, and wrinkled skin. Additionally, a redcap's mouth is oddly wide and filled with flat, crooked teeth, along with the occasional bit of uneaten flesh. A redcap's choice of locale is usually as unpleasant as they look. The more run-down and violent a place is, the more at home a redcap feels, as do the gangs they usually run with. Wildling redcaps are little hellions, bullies, and sadists. Once they get a bit of size and become wilders, their violent tendencies mature, along with an interest in tattooing, piercing, and scarification. A redcap's first gang fight and their first tattoo or piercing are considered respected rites of passage. Redcap grumps are masters at arms in the unseelie courts, respected by their lords and feared by their subordinates. Every redcap is an omnivore, in the most literal sense of the word. While a redcap's teeth would send an orthodontist into fits, their teeth are also as hard as steel, and they can digest any material or substance known to man or fae, with the exception of cold iron, though their preference remains for meat, and they aren't picky about its source. Redcaps have been known to partake of the occasional bit of the long pig. In addition to their appetites, redcaps are supernatural bullies. They can intimidate most mortal creatures, and can even browbeat chimera into obeying them. However, being gluttonous cannibalistic bullies is bad for someone's reputation. Who knew? Redcaps are at a disadvantage in any social situation that doesn't involve intimidation. And some seelie nobles find the presence of redcaps so odious that they issue standing orders to drive out any and all redcaps from their freeholds. The Satyrs. Satyrs might describe themselves as Epicureans. Others loudly denounce them as hedonists. Regardless, satyrs love a good time, with the more philosophical of the Kith claiming that wisdom comes from a life of passion and pleasure. They are a Kith who disdain restraint, whether in frivolity, battle, or romance. While they lack the otherworldly beauty of the she, the satyrs are notorious for their sexual conquest, thanks to their raw charisma. That charisma is useful in their lives, as satyrs prefer collecting people to things, as well as dragging along their more restrained companions on some new experience. Despite the stereotype of satyrs as the embodiments of carnality, some satyrs have deeply philosophical minds and pursue more cerebral hobbies between their manic bouts of indulgence. Satyrs form bands of their own kith known as tragos, a stable core of their like-minded fellows. When a satyr dies or falls to banality, his tragos will see him off with a wake, full of wild song, dance, and drink. The bonds of the tragos runs deep, so much so that only death or exile can sever a satyr from his band. Other Kiths recognize that satyrs are entertaining but dangerous creatures. Dangerous because many satyrs lack the ability to comprehend how their wild and flighty lusts might hurt others. This usually takes the form of a string of broken hearts, jilted lovers, despoiled maidens, and parentless children. But satyrs are creatures of chaos, and they hear the song of Pan in their souls, and it drowns out the noise of all those they abandon. The fairy mean of satyrs are lean and furry, with cloven hooves in place of feet, and horns sprouting from their foreheads. When they bother with clothes at all, they are usually made of durable fabric and designed to be easily and quickly removed. Satyrs love music and alcohol in equal measure, and can usually be found where one or both are in the offering. As childlings, or fawns, satyrs are innocently playful, whiling away their days with singing, wrestling, and racing. As they grow up into wilders, their innocence gives way to licentiousness, and they run wild from one celebration to another, fearful of the day when they can no longer keep up with their fellows. When a satyr becomes a grump, their energy turns inward to the search for wisdom. They believe that the best years are behind them, though they still enjoy a good tumble in the sack as well as a stiff drink. When a satyr's horns grow long, and he reaches the end of his days, his tragos takes him out for one last bacchanalia, the night out of nights out, and then, when the sun rises, the satyr grump dies. As children of Pan, satyrs bear a part of the god's power to call others to revel in joy and chaos. Whether by song or dance or poem, satyrs can draw Fae and mortals into their celebrations. If a mortal or Fae spends long enough partaking of the gift of Pan, the satyr can strip away banality from the souls of the revelers, albeit temporarily. To keep up with his mad debauchery, satyrs are blessed with great stamina and athleticism. When they call upon the weird, a satyr can easily outrun mortals and pretty much anything else while on foot. But it's not all fun and games with satyrs. The chaos in their souls makes them temperamental, especially when drunk. They can shift on a dime from being overjoyed to overcome with fury. And all satyrs struggle mightily to resist any temptation set before them. The Sidhe. From the beginning, the Fae have had their kings and queens, their lords and ladies. The shining hosts, the rulers of the dreaming, were known as the Sidhe. Mortals once called them the good folk, though not for any particular decency or kindness on the part of the Sidhe, but rather for fear of offending them and attracting their wrath. However, the age of the Sidhe is long past. Those who return to the mortal world, wonderful and terrible as they are little more than ragged exiles from Arcadia, condemned to a slow death in a dying world where glamour is fading. But the Sidhe refuse to go into winter without a fight. Though they look slight and ethereal, the Sidhe are fearsome warriors and creatures of implacable will. The commoner Fae, not overcome by awe in their presence, consider them haughty and unfeeling, but the Sidhe conceal their blazing passions beneath courtly graces and chivalrous deportment. The fire that burns twice as hot burns half as long, and many Sidhe, as the truest children of the dreaming, would rather burn out than fade into nothingness. Sidhe who turn to lordship of a freehold are less cavalier. Without glory to fuel their nobility, they fall into despair, or tyranny, depending on whether the seelie or unseelie nature holds dominance. Satyr singers and Eshu storytellers claim that the Sidhe's great power is as much a curse as it is a blessing. Their strong ties to the dreaming places their minds in the past, present, and future simultaneously. This gives the Sidhe the appearance of being detached, uncaring, or capricious. However, they must follow the whims of their Fae nature, because banality is deadlier to them than it is to the commoners who have adapted to the changeling way. Rather than being reborn, the Sidhe suffer true death, or perhaps something worse than that. The Sidhe are beings of unnatural beauty. Tall, lithe, angular, and ethereal, their appearance alone can ensnare mortals without the need for glamour or charms. Their eyes tend to be notable colors and vibrant, and as befits their station as rulers, Sidhe are usually garbed in the finest attire, typically glamoured for added effect. But for all of their regal glory, the Sidhe project a sense of loss and longing that can be frightening or heartbreaking. She-Childlings, whether seelie or unseelie, are expected to conduct themselves as befits their station among the Fae. At best, they are well-mannered little lordlings and ladies. At worst, they are pompous, spoiled little brats. As they come of age and grow into wilders, the treacherous, courtly games of the freeholds becomes all-consuming. Some journey into the world seeking to make their names by reclaiming freeholds, recovering lost treasures, defeating great foes, or challenging the champions and worthies of other courts. Finally, Grump She have settled into their seats of power, yet still long for the days of their youth, as they dwell on the mistakes of their pasts. The only respite from their regrets are the games of intrigue and subterfuge that they encourage in the noble courts. Generally speaking, there is no such thing as a naturally ugly she. At best, or worst rather, a she might be considered plain, though even in such an unusual case they stand out. That is because a she's passions are not of this world. They are from the deepest parts of the dreaming, and elicit the proper levels of awe and terror when they are aroused. Even the prospect of attacking a she while in the throes of anger takes an exceptionally strong will. Whether a she is of the seelie or unseelie courts, theirs is the gift of noble bearing, above the petty slights and indignities of lesser creatures. No cantrip that would cause a she to be mocked or might wound their dignity succeeds against them. The changelings are creatures of the dreaming, and for the she this is doubly true. As relative newcomers to Earth, the she are poisoned by banality to a greater extent than the commoners. The Sluagh. The Sluagh, or the Underfolk, are changelings born from dreams of things once valued, but now are forgotten and lost. It is believed that they originated in Russia as fairies who lived beneath mountains and hearths. They tend to unsettle those who meet them, with their soft whispers, dark eyes, and pale flesh. Their macabre reputation is enhanced by their love of privacy and their preference for dwelling in places where they can be surrounded by beautiful decay, such as abandoned mansions or fetid sewers. Though they are dark creatures, the Sluagh are not wicked, at least most of them aren't. They are formal and polite, which only adds to their disquieting air. While no Sluagh could be called comely, with their pallid skin, toothless mouths, and small black eyes, there is something compelling about them, that they are the bearers of a grim truth that brings them more comfort than the rest of their kind. The preferred habitats of the Sluagh are varied. Some ensconce themselves in antique shops, abandoned mansions, and old libraries. Those obsessed with decay hide in sewers, attics, and other places where they can seclude themselves. And even Sluagh who are in motleys like to keep a place of their own, where they can retreat from the world and take comfort in things that are dying. Sluagh childlings tend to be unkempt, strange little urchins who like to hide and discover disgusting treasures that they hoard and show off to their most trusted companions, or to no one at all. Sluagh wilders seek out the dark places of the world to make their homes. They grow fully into their Fae means, as their skin turns white and their hair ink black. Sluagh grumps tend to hit old age like it's a wall. Their skin grows loose and hangs off in folds. Gray streaks appear in their hair overnight. Their shoulders and backs begin to stoop. But somehow, the Sluagh actually revel in this decay of their bodies, as it proves the truth of their obsession. Many Sluagh have a nauseating form of entertainment for themselves. They can dislocate and distort their bones and mass in different ways that makes confining them nearly impossible, with the appropriately disgusting sounds as they do so. It helps them get into places where they are not supposed to be, and the better to overhear things they aren't supposed to hear. The only fetter that can restrain the underfolk is cold iron. And speaking of things they aren't supposed to hear, the Sluagh have preternaturally sharp senses, so much so that even illusion magic has a weaker effect against them. As creatures of silence, though, the Sluagh can never raise their voices above a whisper, even if they wanted to. Finally, the Sluagh are socially awkward to all but each other, thanks to their very particular rules of etiquette. The Trolls. Trolls are changelings of remarkable strength, honor, and honesty. They are powerful warriors who think and speak plainly, and have little use for deception or subterfuge. A troll's sworn word is unyielding as a mountain, but even mountains can be worn away. A troll who violates his oath loses his superhuman strength until he atones for his faithlessness. According to the trolls, they were the first true nobility of the Fae, and that it was from them that the Sidhe learned of chivalry before the Sidhe deposed the trolls. But the trolls were bested and swore their loyalty to the Sidhe, becoming their guardians and knights. As the Redcaps are typically associated with the unseelie court, most trolls adhere to their seelie legacies, and they are known, occasionally, as the Giants. The Giants are stoic, brave, honorable to a fault, and implacable, both in battle and in love. However, trolls do have their limits, and when a troll begins to question the value of their loyalty and honor, they descend into their unseelie legacy, and whatever freehold they protect should beware, as the domain will soon have to contend with a mighty and brutal ogre who has forsaken heroism for villainy. It is a simple thing, and most importantly, a wise thing, to make sure that a freehold's troll defenders are acknowledged. They are not only the physical protectors of their realms, they are the exemplars of its people's honor and chivalry. Lose those, and the realm may soon fall to the unseelie court. In their fairy means, trolls stand between 7 and 9 feet tall, heavily muscled with square jaws, pointy teeth, and small horns on their foreheads. In their seelie legacies, trolls exude nobility. As childlings, trolls are children in name only. They are little adults, quickly embracing duty, honor, stoicism, and simplicity. They are also extremely athletic and usually dominate whatever sports or contests they get involved in. As wilders, this taste for physical and mental adversity is only sharpened. Trolls want, or rather need, to do great deeds, to test themselves against themselves. As they age into grumps, trolls may not have the same speed or agility as their younger counterparts, but their strength is at its peak. After a long service, a troll becomes the sworn protector of a single person or place until the troll's death. A graybeard giant is unmovable and nearly unstoppable, as many would-be thieves and assassins have learned in their dying moments. Trolls are blessed with the strength of the Titans. Injuring a troll is nearly as difficult as turning aside one of their mighty blows. When a troll is engaged in his sworn duty, nearly nothing can distract him from it. But duty is a two-edged sword. Any troll who forsakes his sworn oath is in turn forsaken by the Titan's power until they make amends for it, typically by renewing that oath. But if someone breaks their oath to a troll, then there is very little that can protect them from the troll's wrath.